Pirelli and AM drivers as Niklas Nielsen leads them away then, and almost pinpoint accurate. We've got 16 minutes of racing to come. So it's Niklas Nielsen leading from Florian Merckx, then it's Björn Grossman, and then we see Jens Liebhauser, Enzo Podoliccio and Alessandro Vezzoni. So for the first time of asking proper since the opening lap, which was all brought to a really rather rapid stop, we are back racing again. So Jens Liebhauser then in the number 44 car, and this is the part of the circuit along the Kemmel Straight where visibility is really impacted. Here comes Björn Grossman on Florian Merckx. Florian Merckx defends, and Björn Grossman will try and find a way past Florian Merckx. We're also conscious of the fact that his fellow German driver behind him is Jens Liebhauser. And the more these two fight, the more it means that Jens Liebhauser is allowed to get alongside, perhaps. But Björn Grossman and Florian Merckx, a bit of a squeeze between the two of them there. But Björn Grossman holds on to that inside line, but that becomes the outside for the next one, where Florian Merckx should have the advantage. But more momentum by Björn Grossman. Very good overtake there that he set up 2 or 3 corners before the one where he actually made it count. So Björn Grossman moves himself up into P2. Florian Merckx is relegated to P3. And whilst all that's going on, Niklas Nielsen, look at this, has been able to escape up the road by something like 1.7 seconds. Only 14.5 minutes of racing still to come. So Grossman then knew that he had to do it early on, and sure enough did do it early on. And now the chase is on to Niklas Nielsen. But I really rather wonder whether already Niklas Nielsen has got enough in the tank. And here you can see this is where Björn Grossman began to set up the move. Florian Merckx tried to squeeze him, but Björn stayed with it. Now, it was here where it became the outside of the next turn, where Björn Grossman had got to carry that momentum and put his nose in front of the Florian Merckx car, which he did. And that meant that he did go through and take up that P2 place. Niklas Nielsen stretching his legs, but Björn Grossman is catching him, I think. So we will see, but he's certainly leaving Florian Merckx for dust at the moment. Jens Liebhauser with a completely different line out of the exit of the chicane. So P1, Niklas Nielsen. P2 is Björn Grossman. The gap between the two of them is 2.7 seconds. So that's a big ask. Florian Merckx tries to keep with Björn Grossman through La Source turn as they head downhill now towards Eau Rouge. Alessandro Vezzoni is ahead of Henry Hassid and Fabian Volven, the lady racer there in car number 81, also engineered by Octane 126, the same team that engineer Björn Grossman. So here as Niklas Nielsen. Visibility actually is improving now along the Kemmel Straight, remarkably. Perhaps it wasn't mist or fog, perhaps someone had a bonfire. Nielsen then, 2.6 seconds, the margin between Niklas Nielsen and Björn Grossman. So Niklas Nielsen then, who has been, well, a stellar star in the Ferrari Challenge, that is for sure. Grossman to Merckx is now 1.1 seconds, so Octane 126 have engineered the Björn Grossman car well. Of course, he is on his birthday. He would love to be on the top step of the podium for his birthday, but, well, he's got a bit of time to catch up yet. And not only has he got to catch up to Niklas Nielsen, but he's got to find a way past him, which has been notoriously difficult in the season so far. And it's Niklas Nielsen that is winning the battle, because Niklas Nielsen has taken 3 wins, as opposed to Björn Grossman, who has but 1 win to his name, has been denied in other races by Niklas Nielsen. So Jens Liebhauser, who won the Trofeo Pirelli AM Championship last year, is running in P4, ahead of Enzo Podoliccio and Henry Hassid. So the leader in the AMs is Fabian Volven, the lady racer, who took her race win debut at Imola last year. Car number 93 exceeding the track limits at turn 4. That's Chris Froggatt, who's trying to make his way up the order, having already passed Walter Ben Dorenberg, and Thomas O'Rourke is up to P12, which is P5 in the AMs, so he's off the podium at the moment. Fabian Volvent, Klaus Zibranson, as you can see, it's a fairly healthy margin, because Fabian Volvent on the pace is going to be on the back of Henry Hassid very quickly, because Henry Hassid continues his fight with Alessandro Vezzoni. So 11 minutes of racing remain as Fabian Volvend crosses the timing line once again. The race being led by Niklas Nielsen, who actually stretches his lead over Björn Grossman to 3.127 seconds. John Sawbridge is going to be under pressure here shortly because hard charging is Chris Froggatt. Now, Christian Overgaard is splitting the two British drivers at the moment. So this is going to be a fight well worth watching here. John Sawbridge then it's Christian Overgaard, then it is Chris Froggatt. We didn't think we would see Chris Froggatt back in the race because his car looked to have been too severely damaged. They've worked on the car. They got him back out again. He had to take his place up at the back of the grid nonetheless. So Froggatt now trying a move potentially on Christian Overgaard. And this will bring him ever closer to John Sawbridge. He's on the inside line. The car of Christian Overgaard just looked a bit squirmy under braking, but Overgaard remains ahead of Chris Froggatt here. So in the race, it's the fight that's going on for P10, to be truthful, but in class, it's the fight that's going on for P3. Because at the moment, John Sawbridge is P3 in the AM class. And in the top speed standings, there's Henry Hassid, who is quickest through the speed trap at 267.3 kilometers per hour. And now Christian Overgaard is really pressuring John Sawbridge. John Sawbridge new to racing in the Ferrari Challenge this year. In fact, new to racing in any event because went off in the Middle East to gain enough points for his license to enable him to take part in the Ferrari Challenge this year. So there is John Sawbridge. There's Christian Overgaard for Baron Service. The battle for P3 in the AMS, as I mentioned then, is between all these three drivers. Overgaard all over the back of John Sawbridge, trying to get John Sawbridge just to make the smallest of mistakes where Christian Overgaard would be able to take advantage. Thus far, John Sawbridge is stoic in his defence and has not made a mistake. Christian Overgaard looks to have a slight pace advantage, but it's all very well having a pace advantage. You've got to try and find a way past. And at the moment, Christian Overgaard has not been able to do that. The minutes are continuing to count down. We have 8.5 minutes of this race left. So Sawbridge, Overgaard, and Chris Froggatt. So the brake discs light up in the John Sawbridge car. Christian Overgaard follows him through. And now, foot through the floor as everyone tries to make up the momentum before La Source turn, which is turn number 1. They put another lap in the book. Christian Overgaard just comes out of the slipstream to look at the inside, and has he got a better exit through La Source? I think he did. If he's able to carry a bit more momentum, if he can get alongside the John Sawbridge car now, he may be able to carry the speed through, but he's not close enough to be able to do so. Both Sawbridge and Overgaard take curves in and out through that section of Eau Rouge. Onto the Kemmel Straight the cars go now. And I don't think that Christian Overgaard is close enough to be able to make a move on John Sawbridge at the moment. So this is Alessandro Vezzoni in car number 27. He had a hairy moment yesterday when he left the track, but thankfully all okay with both him and the car, and he's back out racing once again, but now has the Henry Hassid car very much for company because they are very, very close. This is the fight that's going on for P6 in the pros. So Alessandro Vezzoni is P6 at the moment. Henry Hassid is P7. So here comes Henry Hassid, completely different line to that of Alessandro Vezzoni. He wants to make sure that the Alessandro Vezzoni rearview mirror is full of the Henry Hassid car to keep hounding him and pushing him and hoping that Alessandro Vezzoni would just lose focus and just lose concentration for a millisecond, and that he makes a small error. Well, Vezzoni doesn't very often make errors, but Henry Hassid, as you can see, is as close to Alessandro Vezzoni as has been at any time in the race. In the meantime, John Sawbridge is still holding off Christian Overgaard because Christian Overgaard is having to think about defending against Chris Froggatt now. This is the battle for P3 in the AMS. And it's another intense battle because Chris Froggatt is trying to get past Christian Overgaard, who metaphorically makes the 45 car as wide as he possibly can to deny Chris Froggatt the opportunity to come through. So here is Sawbridge in the yellow and green car. Then it's Overgaard in the red and black, and Chris Froggatt now on the inside, which isn't necessarily the best entry into the bus stop. The back end of the Overgaard car steps out a little bit, but now if Chris Froggatt has got superior momentum, he might be on the inside of... Oh, and that was a bold move by Christian Overgaard in replay. Wasn't able to make it work. Let's go back to see what they're doing through La Source. And Chris Froggatt does get past Christian Overgaard. We could see it being set up. And sure enough, he has done it. He has got past him. So Chris Froggatt, obviously, with the exit out of the bus stop, he'd got superior momentum on the inside, and it always looked likely that he was going to try that overtake. Let's see it. Here it is on the inside, and through he goes. Very clean and tidy overtake, and Christian Overgaard tries to come back at him, but as you can see, the back end of the Overgaard car now steps out, and a big slide. Good control from Christian Overgaard. Now, incidentally, just as Chris makes that overtake, he is under investigation for having the car worked on outside the pit lane. Whether that will have any impact on the result, I don't know. But I can only tell you what I can see on the message screen. Car number 93, under investigation for working outside the pit lane. We'll see. Now this could become a carbon copy of yesterday. Because in yesterday's race, John Sawbridge was being hounded by... Chris Froggatt, and Chris Froggatt by 3/100ths ended up taking the win from John Sawbridge. It won't be the fight for the win on this occasion, but it will be the fight for the final step on the podium in the AMS. In the meantime, Niklas Nielsen, who has probably got this lap and one more to do. And Niklas Nielsen then will return to potentially winning ways here at Spa-Francorchamps. Bjorn Grossman has really tried to take it to him, but the 4 seconds between the two of them is too great. But what they have done is really got away from Florian Merckx, who's completely out on his own here in P3. So Florian Merckx, without the pace that he had yesterday, seemingly in the car in changing weather conditions. I mean, the engineers have had to work so hard on setups of cars to get them exactly right for, as I say, ever-changing conditions. Now, Christian Overgaard looks like he might be coming back at Chris Froggatt here. John Sawbridge needs to keep cool under pressure. It is the fight for the final podium place, and it was the fight yesterday between the same two drivers for the win in the AMS. It's going to be the fight for final podium place between the two of them. John Sawbridge is P3 in AMS. P4 is Chris Froggatt, and P5 is Christian Overgaard. And at the moment, you would suggest that probably, just probably, Chris Froggatt has got the pace advantage, but he's got to find a way past. Fabian Volvend is the leader in the AMS, and again, she's out on her own because she's a full 6 seconds ahead of Klaus Zabranson, who is P2 in the AMS, who in turn is 6 seconds ahead of John Sawbridge. So, crucially, the leaders in each of the classes are well ahead and have got plenty of comfort margin, you would suggest. So Nielsen with 3.8 seconds on Bjorn Grossman, and Fabian Volvend with, as I say, some 6 seconds on Klaus Zabranson. So here is Chris Froggatt then in the number 93 car, who's going to get a black flag. He's going to be disqualified from the race. So, obviously, race control have decided that the car was being worked on when it shouldn't have been, and he is going to be disqualified. That's what a black flag means. He will be out of the race. So, Sawbridge will be P2, and Christian Overgaard will be P3. We're on the final lap. This is the final lap of the race now. Niklas Nielsen is making his way down the Kemmel Straight, which shows you the pace deficit in comparison to these cars who are only now making their way through the bus stop turn. And, oh, Chris Frog at the back end of the car steps out. Now, what they don't want to do is get involved in a huge fight here because it's academic. Now, presumably, the team will have told Chris Froggatt that he's out. Are they allowed to appeal that while he's racing so he keeps racing? I don't think so. I think it's pretty determined, isn't it? Now, hopefully, they will have advised Christian Overgaard and John Sawbridge as well. Who knows? So, Niklas Nielsen in the lead of the race then for Formula Racing. He gets back to winning ways. His last race win was race 2 at Silverstone. But if he can keep his nose clean here and head towards the checkered flag, he will take another win from Björn Grossman in P2 and Florian Merckx in P3. The AMs, it should go Fabian Volven, Klaus Zabranson and John Sawbridge. So, of course, actually it'll be Sawbridge P3 and it'll be Christian Overgaard that becomes P4 with the Chris Froggatt disqualification. So Niklas Nielsen then. Well, we already know all about the talent from the young Dane. I mean, the race results speak for themselves. He's a superb young driver, extremely talented. He has surely put himself into the best possible position to be picked up for additional drives, I would suggest, because his performance against some quality competition in the Ferrari Challenge has been awesome. He heads towards the checkered flag to make it win number 4 for this season. Niklas Nielsen wins at Spa-Francorchamps. Björn Grossman will take P2, and P3 will go the way of Florian Merckx. Wow, what a race. P4 goes the way of Jens Liebhauser. P5 will be Enzo Podoliccio. P6, Alessandro Vezzoni. And P7 will be Henry Hassid. Of course, in the AMs, it's going to be Fabian Volvend that wins from Klaus Zabranson. And then it should be John Sawbridge. So, well, an extraordinary race in so many ways, unfortunately. Now there is Tommaso Roca